Sanibona, ngaphambi singene kwivideo namuhla, ngithi angithathe lethuba ngibonge i-support nothando enikhombise lona lingaphezu kokucabanga kwethu. Siyacela niqhubeke nisupporte njalo ngokubuka amavideo ethu, ungakhohlwa ukukhomenta, ushare, ulike. Siyafisa ukuzwa umbono wakho. Sicela ke singene kwivideo namuhla.
iSowetan ibhale naye article ethi uDeputy President uPaul Mashatile usevumile ukuthi usomabhizinisi waseDurban okuMoses Tembe oyingxenye yabantu laba abathole i-contract ye-lotto license ungumngani wakhe, kodwa uthi ubengazi ukuthi uTembe ubenza umsebenzi nosibalo wakhe noma nomlamo wakhe. Ukuze ngingatshali ukudideka kuwe, into engizoyenza ngizobuyela kwi-portfolio committee ebikhona laphaya lapho uSinawo Thambo azivezile khona lezi zinto. iSowetan ibhala nje emveni kwenkulumo lebeko uSinawo Thambo kanti akaqali ukukhuluma ngendaba le-lotto. So ngifisa ukumcaphuna kodwa ngingakamcaphuni ngiyafisa ukuthi kubantu abavotela i-EFF nenze omuhle umsebenzi, nenze omkhulu umsebenzi futhi kunokuthi yehle i-EFF maintainani ukuthi ayibi ngaphansi ka9% lonawo eParliament. Ama-researchers wabo enza umsebenzi omangalisayo. So ukuba khona kwe-EFF inegalelo elikhulu elidlalayo. Ngiyazi-ke ngokusho kwami kanje sekuzothiwa ngisupport i-EFF. Ngiyabaza abantu uma usho into bacanga ukuthi ngoba bona mhlambe banenzondo i-EFF efuna nami ngibe nayo. Abanye bacanga ukuthi ngoba bathanda i-EFF sekufuna nami ngiyithande kanti mina ngireport konke okuhle okubi ngiyareport. So ngikuncoma lokhu ngenxa yesenzo sabo nangegalelo labo abanalo lapha kwi-portfolio committee. Kodwa lokho akungenzi ngithanda i-EFF ngoba namzukwana yenza ukuphuma eceleni futhi ngiyakureport. So sengikwamukele ukuthi kubantu uma bethanda i-EFF bezukhuluma ngayo ureport into ezingezinhle noma ezishiwo ngabantu noma ezenziwa yi-EFF bathi cha wena uyayizonda. Futhi sengikwamukela ukuthi mzukwana uyincoma kukhona abavelayo bathi hayi wena siyakubona uhambisana ne-EFF.
Quickly with the table staff. I'm opening for more hands if there's any. Member Tambo.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you to the Minister and our colleagues present today. I've been writing a lot of love letters to both the Minister and the Chairperson, so it's nice to finally have the engagement in person so we can ventilate a lot of the issues that we've been ventilating through email correspondence. So on the 5th of March, just to take it back a little bit, we had an engagement with the National Lotteries Commission raising issues of concern. And I'm glad that the Honorable Kikaba also speaks to how exactly do we seek to define conflict of interest, because it's been an ongoing conversation in the committee. And on the 5th of March, as the EFF, we raised specific concerns about the alignment of quite a number of the bidders with the African National Congress in various manifestations. We spoke about Hosken Consolidated Investments, which is led by Johnny Copeland, who was a minister of the ANC in the 90s, which has affiliations with SACTU, a union of COSATU. We spoke about Tebe Investments, which was also a bidder, which donated about 60 million to the ANC in 2021 for the local government elections. And we posed a question to the National Lotteries Commission as to how was this not flagged and picked up in the first place, and how were these entities shortlisted. It would later also become apparent that there was a Sizekaya Holdings, which was established a couple of weeks before, if I'm not mistaken, the bidding for the National Lotteries license closed, which has shareholding by Gold Rush Consortium, which we are all now aware is led by one Sandile Zungu, who was a chairperson hopeful in the African National Congress's KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Conference, and also by one Moses Tembe, who's a, whether true or not, known affiliate of the same political party. So I say this to illustrate the fact that it is not a targeted campaign against one bidder, as many might want to portray it, but there's actually been a consistent position to illustrate perceived or real conflicts of interest in this entire process, which shows to poor vetting systems within the National Lotteries Commission and how we can do better moving forward, because the National Lottery is an institution that is extremely important to the people of this country, the nation, and must always be protected from being used as an instrument for possibly political party funding or self-gratification by individuals or political institutions. So it's really an earnest to protect this institution from being crippled by political infiltration. We've heard more, as days have gone by, that there's actually two streams of political interest. So I'm glad also that the Honorable Gama raised this, that corruption in South Africa has been able to operate around the law. So the National Lotteries Act has a very technical and definitive definition of what constitutes, what it deems a political exposure in terms of political office bearers. But then what happens when political office bearers have close relations with leaders or owners of entities that are bidding for the National Lotteries license rather? Because outside of the shareholding of Sizekaya goes beyond Gold Rush Consortium now, because we've come to hear that there is also Bellamont Gaming, which for the interests of not naming individuals that might not necessarily be actively involved in the political process, the name of the Deputy President of South Africa has come up as well. So Sizekaya has two streams of political interests through Gold Rush and through Bellamont Consortium as well, through Sandile Zungu, and now we're hearing through the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile. So I want us to have an appreciation on the fact that there are these blurred lines regarding political exposure and political office bearing. And does the minister not think that this could have been avoided by doing a thorough vetting of this process, so that we do not raise what are legitimate concerns about the influence of political parties on national entities which are for the public good? Does the minister think it was wise? We can hear the definitivity of the National Lotteries Act in terms as it refers to the political office bearers. But with the history of this country, particularly recent history, of how we know how sub-entities, shell entities, spouses, relatives are utilized to navigate around laws that prohibit political office bearers from running state institutions or trading with the state, does the minister not think it would have been wise to pursue the awarding of the license to an entity less politically exposed, whether directly or indirectly, whether through office bearers using relatives, using sub-entities, using colleagues, using sub-entities, and things of that nature? I'm interested in the ethical question of it and how it could have been avoided. The second part speaks to the bid evaluation committee. So there's been concerns raised around conflicts of interest around the bid evaluation committee members, and I also do not accept that the entity that appointed the bid evaluation committee can then conduct its own investigation to clear those people of conflict of interest. I think that's a conflict of interest in itself. There should have been external sourcing of assessment as to whether these individuals are conflicted with bidders for the very license that they are supposed to award. So the internal investigation that is being cited as justification for there not to be a conflict of interest is quite insufficient. And the Auditor General indeed could have been a mechanism, because the questions are now becoming much broader and the legitimacy of the process is becoming quite questionable. I mean, the chairperson, I had Honorable from Posa asking that who are the names? I mean, we've been made privy to some of the names. Andrew Mashifane, we're told, was the chairperson of the bid evaluation committee, was found to have conducted misconduct in 2023 by the Independent Regulatory Board for Auditors. Was he vetted before he was appointed? Miriam Motamu was a committee member who we're told attended a gala dinner of Gold Rush Consortium. Was this individual vetted? And Anne Marie Pooley, we're told, owns machines in an establishment in Tshwane, which belong to Gold Rush Consortium. That means she was trading with the very entity that she was supposed to preside over as to whether a license should be awarded to or not. So how thorough was the vetting process of the appointment of bid evaluation committee members? And perhaps the Honorable Kikawa's point becomes important as well, because perhaps we're asking the wrong person when we ask the minister. Was the minister directly involved in the appointment of the bid evaluation committee? If not, who was? Is he privy to any thorough vetting process of these individuals? Because his reliance on an internal report clearing these individuals and perhaps others, I think would be a dereliction of duty if he has not independently and thoroughly also done his own work to check whether these individuals had been vetted. So can we get an explanation on that as well? And then I'll echo the comments of the Honorable Mdluli that there's a lot of documentation that we would want to be availed to us, and is there willingness to avail that documentation so that we can see through a transparent process whether this was conducted fairly, ethically, and without any considerations of political bias or political interest. I'll leave it there, Chair. Thank you.
Njengoba umuzwa kusinawo Thambo la ebeka yonke lenkulumo ayibekayo ezilinka zonke lezi zinto nanokuthi abantu laba okuyibona abanama contract lapha kwilotho abanye babo babefund ANC, so zonke abanye baxhumene political, so ukuthi lama decision ukuthi bagcine kube yiba bathola ama contract athathwa kanjani, ngabe political influence ikhona na, njengoba manje sekulinkwa uDeputy President okuPaul Mashatile. Icala ke umphikwa, icala nje umphikwa, angisho ukuthi ukwenzile uDeputy President, angeke ngamsukela ngento engaka, angisho ukuthi ukwenzile, kodwa kunoma kuphi icala umphikwa. So uma ekhuluma neSowetan, akekho umuntu ongavuma athi yebo nginesandla, angisho umuntu kwenzile, kodwa ngibeka nje isimo sokuthi funa sikulindele ukuthi mayiphendula uDeputy President angeke avume, ekwenzile ngeke avume, engakwenzanga futhi ngeke avume, angeke azavume. So ngicela ukukulethela nje lolu daba. Ngiyafisa futhi ukucaphunela inkulumo kaMinister, kodwa nje ngithe ngoba kuyaphithizela kulezi insuku into ehamba phambili lolu daba lika Floyd, ngithi angililethe nalolu. Uma kodwa nifuna impendulo kaMinister ukuthi uphendule wathini, especially kule mibuzo ebalekile ukuthi obani abakhethe abebe kuyibona abakhetha ama contractors, ngabe uMinister kunabantu ababesebenza beyipanel bewaqoka lama contractors ukuthi atholwa imaphi amakhampani lama contract, okanye uMinister yena ngokwakhe ukuthi uphendule wathini ngokwakhe ube nolwazi. Kodwa ke ukuze sifike kuleyo mpendulo ngicela ukuzwa ngawe, ngithi nje angilethe le ndaba ngoba noma zikhona lezi ezitrendayo, sonke ke siyafuna ukuhamba nazo ezitrendayo ngoba ziletha ama number of which into esifunayo, it's a game of numbers, funa sithola ama views. Kodwa nalezi zibalekile ngoba ekugcineni kosuku sezidlulile lezi ezitrendayo, lezi zosala nathi. Njengoba eshilo sinawo Thambo athi ilotho institution ebaleka kakhulu emphakathini. Kunama business njengama crash esengeke ngawabona fundwa yilotho, so ineqhaza elikhulu elidlalayo. ngicela ukuma la mina nawe bese sidibana kwivideo elandelayo. Ngiyabonga.